successful and mediocre. When I say these things, okay, when I say these things, instinctively there will be a person or a couple people, there'll be people that come to mind, okay? You know who they are. Now let me be clear here. That does not mean never ever speak to them ever again, okay? Especially if they are, part of your family. You're gonna keep them around, okay? They're your family at the end of the day. It just means you have to distance yourself from them for a little bit, okay? For a little bit of time, you just have to create space for yourself. That doesn't mean that you have to never see them again and you never hang out with your family and all this sort of stuff. Like, I think that's just a bit crazy. But for me, you distance yourself, you do what you need to do. And, the funny thing is, you're doing what you need to do for the benefit of your family most of the time. It's crazy as a lot of times you'll be trying to literally break generational curses, and the people that you're trying to break generational curses for are the ones that are trying to drag you down while you're doing it, because they can't see it. They can't understand it. I always say, like, for me, I had to be selfish in order to become selfless. And what I mean by that is I had to be selfish with my time. For a couple of years, like, I didn't really see my friends. I didn't really spend time with my mom. And it's like so funny and it's so weird, because in the process of trying to be, listen, everyone has a different motivation. For you, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your son, your daughter, whatever it may be. But usually you have that person or persons that you're doing it for. In your deepest, darkest moments, in your deepest, darkest days, you have those people that you're doing it for. And what's so funny is, for me, that person was my mom. In the process of trying to be a great son to my mother and provide her the life that I always wanted for her, and most importantly, just provide her safety. In that process, I almost was considered a bad son because I didn't spend much time with her. I was just all in on my work, all in on my business, and that's how it had to be. And I had to be selfish for a little bit of time in order to be selfless, in order to provide her the life that she has today and she's had for many years now. Okay? So this is a period, this is a window, this is a season of life that you have to go through. Now, I want you to make a list of the dead weight in your life, the people, the habits, the circumstances that are holding you back. This is not about being mean. It's about survival. Your future self is depending on you to make hard choices. Champions don't have time for things that waste their time and energy. Rule number 3 is invest in yourself. And just one thing I actually want to talk about and go back to on this point. I also don't want you to get stuck in this place, because that's the other thing. Sometimes I see a lot of people out there talking about, unless you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you won't be successful and all this stuff. Like, no, you have to go through a period and you have to go through a season of intensity, okay? And it's only once you go through that season of intensity and you accomplish what you want to accomplish, at a certain point, you can go out of that. And what I mean by that is, like, there were years of my life where, like, all I did was just, like, and don't take this in any bad way. I don't mean this with any malice, but, like, I was almost so autistically, like, focused. Like, I couldn't think of anything else except for my business and my work, and it had to be that way. Okay, it had to be like that. I had to have that crazy level of intensity for a few years. I was, liken it to getting a plane. Having a plane take off. Most of the fuel and most of the energy and the exertion is actually getting the plane off the ground. Now, once the plane's up in the sky, it's just it's sipping fuel, it's chugging along, and that's almost the way that success is. Like, the early stages are the trickiest. That's the good news and the bad news. The bad news is, you probably know this already. Like, when you in your processes, you're trying to get this plane off the ground, the plane that is you and your online business and your career and your success. You're like, wow, this is so hard. And yeah, like, it's true. It is hard. Getting the plane off the ground is tricky. That's the bad news. The good news is, once you have the plane off the ground, keeping it chugging along is pretty manageable. That's usually the easy part. Okay. Now, of course, we always say new levels, new devils. All right. If you want to get to new levels in life, you have to evolve, and you have to, I always say, kill the old version of yourself. And it's an ongoing process. But all of that to say that right now, what you're going through, bad news is it's tough. Good news is it's probably the trickiest part of this entire journey. So if you can just get through it, I promise you on the other side, it gets easier. So with that being said, let's move on to rule number 3, invest in yourself. Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, your body and your mind are your most valuable asset. Everything else can be taken away, but what you've built inside yourself stays with you forever. And this is exactly what rule number 3 is all about. You have to invest in yourself, into your body, into your mind. In fact, you've already taken a massive step towards this by just even attending this event. And not only attending this event, being here on day 5. So first of all, fucking shout out to you, all right? You are a badass. Okay, you're a superstar. The fact that you're here on day 5 says a lot about you, okay? That says a lot about your character. And this shows me that you are serious about becoming ungovernable and caring about your future success. Like anything worth having in life, it requires an investment. And ungovernable individuals understand this better than anyone else. And it doesn't always have to be financial. It could be reading a book, or it could just mean sacrificing certain things. Thinking long-term as opposed to short-term. Remember, we spoke earlier about the fact that to become ungovernable, you have to embody ungovernable traits first. This is one of them. Champions are willing to invest in themselves. They are willing to sacrifice things to get to where they want to be. They educate themselves. They consume content that sharpens their thinking. They work on both their physical and mental health because they know their body affects their mind and their mind affects their body. You see, Warren Buffett studies and reads 500 pages every single day, and that is why he sees opportunities that most people miss. Right now, you are investing in your mind, you're learning, you're building the stepping stones to your future self. All you're missing is just doing this consistently every single day and figuring out what to invest in to get the biggest rewards. So I want you to type commit in the chat if you are willing to continue figuring this out together over the space of the next few days. Well, actually, we have a 2-day rest period, and then we finish off strong with our final 2 days. So drop a commit in the chat if you're ready to ride through the last couple days with the same intensity we started off this journey with. Rule number 4 is eliminate distraction. Now, speaking of investing in yourself, like I said, I also want you to know what to focus on and what to ignore. This is equally as important. And this is where you have to eliminate distractions. Is anyone here a big fan of Apple? Anyone? Because I personally am. Well, here's a fun fact about Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. He wakes up at 3:45 a.m. every day, not because he has to, but because those early hours are distraction free. Those early hours are when he focuses all in on what he needs to get done. I also want to make this very clear to you guys. You don't need to always wake up early. Like, for example, me, some people may not know this, but I actually go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning. For me personally, like most of our serious companies, our big companies are US based and working off US time zone. So I'm on US time zone a lot. You have to wake up at 4 in the morning, okay? I said I wake up at like 9 or 10 in the morning. It depends on the day. I wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning and I go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning. So, like make up your own schedule. That's fine. Find a schedule that suits you and optimizes for the most amount of power hours or focus, okay? And as I said, this is for Tim, like that's what works. For him, 3:45 in the morning works because those are his distraction-free hours. And it's funny because he's actually he's the one who's creating this distraction device. Yet he always says that he needs more focus time in his life. Okay, he knows better than anyone else. Him of all people knows how powerful our phones are, but also how much of a distraction they can be. He even admitted to spending too much time on his phone recently. Now, don't get me wrong. I have my phone with me at all times, okay? I use it every single day because a lot of my business at this stage, I remember back when I first got started on my journey, like I used to put my phone on airplane mode for like 4 or 5 hours a day. So that way I could just focus in on one task and one task only. So as you go further on in your journey, different seasons of life, okay? Different seasons, different years are going to demand different things from you. Some years you're going to have to be super connected on your phone all the time. And that's actually usually a little bit later on in your journey. But in the early stages, a lot of times it's just about focus and building, okay? The average person spends 7 hours a day on their phone. 7. That is almost a full-time job of distraction. That's why, listen,